In our last video about the history of the Republic, we discussed the Great Sith War, in which the Brotherhood of the Sith and their Mandalorian allies cut a swath across the Republic, doing grievous harm to the galaxy. With Exar Kun and his followers defeated, the Republic narrowly avoided disaster for a little while. The worst was yet to come. The Great Sith War was only the first of the old Sith Wars, and just a few short decades after its end at Yavin, the next few wars were already brewing. Buckle up, because today we're going to be talking about the Mandalorian Wars, the Jedi Civil War, and the Dark Wars. 20 years of hell the Republic just barely survived.
Move a little bit to your left. Front guy. Nope, not wrong guy. Wrong guy.
You were not the front guy. Hang on.
Me? Right here?
Yeah. Move more to your left.
The 30 years after the Great Sith War were called the Restoration Period, the calm before the storm. During those decades, the Republic rebuilt, overhauling its aging military and adopting new blaster technology, an innovation derived from Mandalorian weapon designs. The last remnants of the Krath and Exar Kun's Sith followers were dispersed, while Ulic Qel-Droma went into self-imposed exile on Renvar. The Jedi Order rebuilt as well. Having lost their homeworld of Ossus near the end of the war, they set up shop in a new Jedi temple on Coruscant and tried to rebuild after suffering grievous losses to the Sith. In the early years of the Restoration period, the Jedi Council also authorized the Great Hunt, in which a team of Jedi were sent out to hunt what they thought were the last Sith-spawn monsters. The peace of the Restoration period didn't last. In 3970 BBY, the Argazda sector, a small group of systems on the Republic's frontier, seceded and became the Argazdan Redoubt. The Redoubts ruling Argazdans, free of Republic scrutiny, began a 300-year-long reign of terror called the Cairns Disorders, starting with the first of what would be many genocides on Eresus. But at the time, the Republic wasn't able to do much about the Argazdans. They had bigger problems. The Republic wasn't the only faction that was rebuilding during the Restoration period. In a battle over Onderon at the end of the war, the Mandalorian Crusaders, who had been allies of the Sith, were defeated, and their leader was killed by beasts on Duxon, Onderon's moon. But on the same day Mandalore the Indomitable fell, another rose to take his place. A warrior stumbled upon Mandalore's body in the jungles and, claiming his mask for his own, became the new Mandalore, as had been tradition for millennia. He declared himself Mandalore the Ultimate. Returning home, the new Mandalore rallied his people in secret on Mandalore and Duxon, where he declared a series of reforms that would change the Mandalorians forever. Where the Mandalorians had previously consisted of mostly Tongs, they would henceforth accept recruits from all species. Additionally, they were to abandon their nomadic ways and keep the worlds they conquered so as to build up a military force to rival the Republic's. In the decades after the end of the Great Sith War, these Neo-Crusaders conquered a vast swath of the wild space beyond the Republic's northern fringe. In 3976 BBY, Mandalore the Ultimate began what would later be called the Mandalorian Wars. At first, he and his Neo-Crusaders stayed beyond the borders of the Republic, conquering fringe worlds like Cathar and Altair. But before long, they began to bite into Republic territory, clearly preparing for a larger invasion. Despite the obvious nature of the growing threat, the Republic, still war-weary, neglected to do anything about it. That mistake nearly proved fatal. In 3965 BBY, 11 years after the Mandalorians began their campaigns, the Neo-Crusaders finally began attacking Republic warships near Taris. The war had come to the Republic at last, but for nearly a year, it seemed to be limited in scope. The Mandalorians only deployed limited forces in the first year of this new stage of the war, and they only attacked minor resource worlds. Expecting that a greater Mandalorian invasion would soon be coming, the Republic Navy established the Jebel Vanquo Tarnith Line, a security cordon just beyond Taris, which they reinforced to the best of their abilities. But it wasn't enough. 3,964 years before the Battle of Yavin, this false war came to an abrupt end when the Mandalorians unleashed a massive armada against the line, annihilating the Republic's fleets and seizing Taris and Vanquo in lightning strikes. With his enemies in disarray, Mandalore the Ultimate then ordered a full invasion of the Republic. The Mandalorians struck in 3 sectors at once, pushing Corwood from Taris while also hitting the Tyon cluster and the northern dependencies. Republic forces successfully defended Ithor and Iridonia from the Mandalorians, but elsewhere, they didn't stand a chance. With every world the Mandalorians conquered, their numbers swelled with millions of new recruits. Entire sectors surrendered themselves as they advanced, terrified by the whispers of Cathar, where the Mandalorians had killed nearly the entire population, and Sirocco, which the Mandalorians had pummeled with nuclear bombs. The Mandalorians cut deeper into the heart of the Republic, culminating in the Mandalorian triumph in 3962 BBY. In that year, the Mandalorians pushed into the Inner Rim and then the colonies. Then, with a massive assault on Duro, they breached the boundaries of the core worlds themselves. In its hour of need, the Republic turned to the Jedi for aid, but the Jedi Council refused to intervene. They sensed that a bigger threat was on the horizon and wanted to wait for it to reveal itself before rushing off to war. Fortunately for the Republic, a whole lot of Jedi thought that was bullshit. Under the Jedi Knights Revan and Malak, these Jedi Crusaders joined the Republic military anyway, becoming the galaxy's first Jedi generals. Beginning in 3961 BBY, these Jedi, called the Revanchists, began a massive counter-offensive, pushing the Mandalorians out of the core and back toward wild space. Led by the tactical genius Revan and the unparalleled warrior Malak, the Republic military finally started winning battles again. The cost of victory was high, however. The Jedi found themselves having to take moral shortcuts to come out on top, matching the Mandalorians for brutality and sacrificing thousands of soldiers in battle after battle. In this manner, Revan and Malak slowly but surely crushed the Mandalorians. 3,960 years before the Battle of Yavin, they reclaimed Taris and Duxon at a massive cost in lives, and then utterly defeated the Mandalorians in the terrible Battle of Malachor V. Against all odds, the Mandalorian Wars ended with the Republic victory. At Malachor V, Mandalore the Ultimate was killed and Revan hid his mask on a remote ice world, leaving the Mandalorians leaderless. They turned on each other and their empire collapsed, giving the Republic a bit of room to breathe. But this peace wouldn't last. After the Battle of Malachor V, Revan and Malak had disappeared, claiming they had other battles to fight in the unknown space beyond Malachor. For a year, they were presumed dead. Then, in 3959 BBY, they returned at the head of a massive fleet, launching surprise attacks on the shipyards of Forost and Fondor. They declared themselves Darth Revan and Darth Malak, the Dark Lords of a new Sith Empire. The galaxy was stunned by this sudden betrayal. Some in the Republic were shocked that Revan and Malak had become brutal conquerors and resolved to fight back against the new Sith threat. But others decided that their loyalties lay with the heroes of the Mandalorian Wars, not the failing Republic. A huge portion of the Republic military defected to join the Sith, as did many Jedi. So many Jedi joined the Sith that this second Sith War was more commonly known by another name, the Jedi Civil War. In just 3 short years, Revan's Sith Empire seized control of a full third of Republic space. The Republic didn't stand a chance. They were still weak from the Mandalorian Wars. They were badly outnumbered and, above all, they just couldn't compete with Revan's military genius. Once more, it fell to the Jedi to save the day, and this time, the Order went to war. Even as their numbers were diminished by casualties and defections, they took command of the Republic military and resolved to stop Revan. They rallied behind Bastila Shan, a young Jedi with the rare gift of battle meditation. Thanks to Bastila and her battle meditation, the Republic was able to stave off the Sith advance, at least for a time. In a major stroke of luck, they even managed to capture Darth Revan himself, leaving Malak to take control of the Empire. They hoped that this would put a stop to the Sith advance, but when Malak kept up the Sith offensive like nothing had happened, the Jedi turned to the captured Revan to save them. His mind had been badly damaged in the battle in which he'd been captured, but the Jedi were able to heal it and replace his old personality with a new one, that of a soldier in service to the Republic. The amnesiac Revan eventually rediscovered his Force sensitivity on Taris, trained to become a Jedi once more, and set out in pursuit of the ancient star maps. These maps led Revan and his followers to Rakata Prime, the heart of the ancient Infinite Empire. There, they found the Starforge, a massive space station capable of churning out infinite fleets, the source of the Sith's vast armada. In 3956 BBY's Battle of Rakata Prime, Revan killed Malak and rescued Bastila, while the Republic Navy destroyed the Starforge, putting an end to the Jedi Civil War. Once again, the Republic had come frighteningly close to certain doom, and once again, it was just barely saved from destruction. After the death of Darth Malak, the Sith had their own civil war, a brief but destructive conflict that all but wiped them out. Even as the redeemed Revan vanished into wild space, seeking answers to resurfaced memories, the Sith Empire he had built destroyed itself. But even though the Republic had won the Jedi Civil War in the end, the victory was Pyrrhic. There were only a few hundred Jedi left at the war's end, and the Republic was still on the verge of collapse. This time, the Republic seemed doomed not because of the Sith or the Mandalorians, but because of itself. It was terribly weak, and it was uncertain whether it was even capable of rebuilding itself. To make matters worse, the Sith weren't quite finished. After the Sith Civil War, the tattered remnants of Revan's empire regrouped at Malachor V under a triumvirate of Sith Lords, Darth Kreia, Darth Nihilus, and Darth Sion. Over the next few years, they began the Dark Wars, a campaign of sabotage and assassination. In secret, Sith assassins carried out the first Jedi Purge, while other Sith agents made the Republic's smaller problems grow worse. By 3951 BBY, it seemed that the Sith verged on victory. The Jedi Order vanished into the shadows after Darth Nihilus attacked during their last gathering at Qatar. Republic restoration projects seemed poised to fail, while worlds like Onderon were openly considering secession from the Republic. But yet again, the Jedi delivered victory in the Dark Wars at the last minute. Mitra Surik, an exile and the so-called Last Jedi, put a stop to a series of Sith plots and began to rebuild the Jedi Order. Above Telos IV, she and the Republic Navy destroyed Darth Nihilus and his fleet, following which she killed Darth Sion and Darth Kreia on Malachor V, which was destroyed entirely. The Republic wasn't quite doomed yet. Following the end of the Dark Wars, both the Republic and the Jedi Order rebuilt, slowly but surely, untroubled by Sith threats for a time. Mitra Surik, meanwhile, left known space in pursuit of Revan. On Malachor V, she had learned that another threat to the Republic had been lurking out in the unknown the whole time. A threat that predated Revan, the Mandalorians, or even Exar Kun. In a few hundred years, that threat would reveal itself. But that's a story for another time. But what do you guys think? Would you like to see more in-depth videos on any of the wars or characters we discussed today? Let us know that and more in the comment section below. As always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.